And guys, speaking of moving on, I want to kind of wrap up our little talk about feminism with Sydney Sweeney, everyone's favorite non-feminist, basically calling out Hollywood. And this was an interesting article over at the New York Post where basically Sydney Sweeney basically said the whole women empowering other women movement in Hollywood is complete bullshit because none of it's actually happening. Imagine that, Hollywood just doing something for the image as opposed to the actual substance. But you have someone like Sydney Sweeney who was specifically called out by like a very prominent movie producer for being ugly and being a bad actress and all this other stuff. But George, I want to ask you, so Sydney Sweeney has played this game correctly as opposed to people like Brie Larson or Rachel Zegler famously, where basically she's like, okay, yeah, I'm hot. I got boobs. I appreciate you guys tuning in to see me, you know, and she's been rewarded for that. Like her star has risen out of everyone who was involved with Madam Web. Like she got the most out of that. What do you think other Hollywood actresses could learn from Sydney Sweeney?
They could learn to keep their personal, private lives and their pimple politics to themselves and just focus on how actors and actresses used to be. We didn't know much about actors and actresses before. We didn't. No. We viewed them through a very narrow, I hate to use the word lens, but lens. You know, they would do I know, but they would do their press junkets when a movie was coming out. You didn't have gossip magazines and stuff like that, but you didn't have this 24 hours a day where they were talking to you. That killed the mystery. So I think what Sweeney has done is she's gone back to how actors used to behave. She's like, here's a movie I'm doing. She sometimes shares some of her beliefs, but they're all very, I'm not going to say they're pablum, but it's kind of like, yes, I'm hot. Hot applies to the movie. You know, yes, I got big boobs. Men love the big boobs. You know, it's very simple. This is my image. This is what I'm selling. Buy it. The actors today in Hollywood are like, no. This is just a job. This is who I really am. Let me tell you what I feel about the legs. Let me tell you what I feel about what you're eating. Milk is racist. Math is racist. She's just like, she cut out all that noise. It's like, it's simple. I mean, you saw the producer, that one producer who was teaching, where was it, at UCLA's School of Cinema, where she was like, well, why? She asked her class, why do y'all like her? She's not hot. She can't act. What's the big deal about her? And you're like, okay. What's the point of that? You're attacking her. So I'm sure they all hate her. She's the exact opposite of the women that Hollywood have been pushing to be more masculine. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. We all saw, what's the blue chick? I always forget her name.
Karen Gillan.
Yeah, Karen Gillan. You saw the way that they had her character from the first episode's poster and the film to the last one. I mean,
you got to go out of your way to make that character, that actress, look ugly.
She's right. She was flat. She was just basically a boy by the end. And that's, again, I think partially why Sydney Sweeney is successful, because she's she's like Jessica Rabbit. You know? She's just like Jessica Rabbit. And you heard the interview lately.
Yeah, they can't make any more because of Jessica Rabbit.
Bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Right. He's got the director has the script for the sequel, but nobody will shoot. He's like, Disney will never touch it. She's too hot.
That's so wild.
Sydney Sweeney actually embraces being a woman as opposed to trying to fight against it. Brian, I want to throw this.
I just pulled up Karen Gillan on the computer. I had no idea she was so hot.
Oh,
my goodness.
She is so attractive.
There's your Laura Croft right there, dude.
Oh, you can Laura Croft her all day long. Yeah.
Well, I should point out that Mr. Butters hates Doctor Who, and so he never saw her in that.
Yeah, that's true.
I like old Doctor Who.
I don't hate it. I just never watched it. It wasn't my thing.
But now pull up the Guardians of the Galaxy poster, Mr. Butters, and then put it next to that picture. You're going to see.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Wild.
But Brian, so like going back to like, this is a rare occasion where you have like someone who has some notoriety in Hollywood actually calling out Hollywood's bad behavior. And, you know, like it wasn't too long ago where we had like the Me Too movement where it was like, believe all women, let's take down these like male predators that have embedded themselves in Hollywood, you know, Harvey Weinstein, you know, all this other stuff. And it was meant to be like a female empowerment movement when it was really just like a very cutthroat, like how can we take down these top male guys and replace them with, you know, ourselves. And so like Sydney Sweeney flat out comes out in the article and says like, hey, I haven't been supported by any women in positions of power. I've had to produce my own movies. I've had to handle my own image. I've had to build my own brand and my own fan base. And other women are just trying to tear me down because they're jealous of my success. And that's essentially what she's saying about Hollywood. Do you think that's accurate?
No. I don't really have much to add here other than no, that's not accurate at all. I'm not even sure if, like, is she successful? Someone?
She's pretty successful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you talking about financially, or are you talking about her Q rating?
Yeah. Like her rating with not obviously financially, sure, but like with fans. Like, is she like, are you like, I'm going out to watch that movie? Like,
I guess it depends on your demographic. I mean, I think part of her popularity is because we've just had such a long time of women who weren't portrayed as women and feminine and sexual. And I think that's half of it.
I think Brian just wasn't listening. The answer is yes, she is right. Because you look at the end of the day, what have we seen come out of Hollywood? They claim they want to get behind women and do all this shit. They only mean that if they're ugly or trans, right? If they're actually talented or proven themselves in the past, they don't actually get a break. Sydney Sweeney is a natural made star, right?
Yeah,
like,
but is she successful?
Yeah,
at this point so far, yes. I mean, has she had like a big box office hit?
No,
not necessarily yet, but she hasn't had the opportunities that a lot of other actresses have had yet, as far as being a star-driven. Like, you put her in something where she actually is the focal point, and it's not like a Madam Web type thing or something like that. Then we'll see if you're right or wrong on that part, Brian. But at the end of the day, I agree with her on the Hollywood front, because they haven't held up anybody who actually is worth a shit. It's either people like Patty Jenkins or Greta Gerwig who go along with their fucking thoughts, or they try to bring up somebody from, like, what's their face over at Marvel, where they keep trying to bring in these people who win Oscars who clearly are not ready for these kind of movies. That's why they have to have 3 or 4 other directors, like Chloe Zhao, all the others. Yeah. See, like, we may have technically more female directors in Hollywood than we ever had before, but they're the most talentless directors in the world, right? They ain't shit on Penelope Spheris or fucking what's her face who did Big from Laverne and Shirley. I just forgot her name.
Cock? No.
No. She directed Big and
Marshall?
Penny Marshall.
Yeah, Penny Marshall. Yeah, and some of the other ones from the past that we had. Yeah.
I think Sydney Sweeney did have a blockbuster this year, didn't she? Anyone But You? Wasn't that a $20 million film?
Oh, that one.
Guys, I'm looking at her IMDb right now. Like, I'm not seeing anything. Like, look, I like Sydney Sweeney. I think
Wait, Anyone But You was a big box office success.
Wasn't it?
Anyone But You? What? That wasn't a big
$25 million budget, $220 million total. Absolutely. That's a huge profit margin. And once it got onto Netflix, I believe, it got also huge ratings there too.
I like the movie, but like she look, I like Sydney Sweeney, but I'm looking at her IMDb, like there's nothing special here yet. I'm saying yet because I'm sure she can do something if given the
difference
chance.
Between her and somebody like Rachel Zegler or whatever is she's not being pushed by the studios to be a movie star, right?
That's true.
She is she is saying is she is clawing and climbing her way to the top, and she's finally getting a little bit of notice for this. And it could be something that, if she uses it correctly, could be her launch pad to becoming a movie star. But she's not like a Jai Courtney, right? Where they're trying to force her down our throats.
How about if we call her like a pre-Suicide Squad Margot Robbie? Is that kind of?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I bet you. What do you think? Of the American public, who would they know more, Sweeney or Zegler?
Sweeney.
I think Sweeney would be.
Sweeney's been around longer. Zegler's only done like 3 or 4 movies.
I think people would know Zegler's movies more because she's been in, I guess, higher profile films, but people would not know her name. People would know Sweeney's name just because of a lot of the kind of media attention.
Also, Mr. Butters, I mean, is it a surprise to anyone that women are catty, backstabbing creatures that are insanely jealous of other people's success in general?
People forget that Sydney Sweeney has been on television too. She's been in Euphoria, Handmaid's Tale, and stuff like that. So
the White Lotus or whatever. But she's forgettable in those. She's not the
business guys in a business like Hollywood. Is it any surprise to anyone that it's just filled with women who hate other women and just want to, advance their own careers.
But the whole they're jealous of my success thing is where you lose me there, because she's not successful yet. She's known.
How are you defining success?
I look at her IMDb list. Like nothing stands out from that whatsoever.
I get what Brian's saying.
Her one rom-com is the most successful, I think.
Right, Glenn Powell is a big part of that.
Definitions. No,
guys, hold on a second. Hold on a second, please.
I was going to clear it up.
Yeah, go ahead, Odin.
I was going to say, it's definitions. Brian, you're operating under the old traditional way that we define what a movie star is. If that's the definition you're using, yes, she is not a movie star in that way. But if you think about how movies are today, movie stars do not sell tickets anymore, right? They are not really drivers of ticket sales. And so Sweeney, in that way, just like Glenn Powell has become in a lot of ways too, has become more of the modern iteration of what the current star is like.
Yeah, and I will say
is a fair definition. Yeah.
In terms of what she's talking about, in terms of like women helping women, it's like she's not getting any help, and she's doing stuff to raise her profile amongst her fan base, right? So like, I never watched Euphoria. I was like, that looks like a dumb show. I'm not interested in doing it. But since then, she has made inroads into people who like haven't watched that show. And she's created a very solid male fan base around her attractiveness and like the rom-com she's made with like couples and like stuff like that. So her profile is getting raised in Hollywood, but she's not getting any help from other women.
Exactly. Like I was trying to say,
I watched The White Lotus for the same reason.
She's been acting for over 15 years. Like I see some people getting shit wrong in the chat. Like her first thing was not the Rolling Stones video. That was like almost 6-7 years into her career. She's been in a bunch of things. She was in a lot of television shows. She was in the original Heroes as the little girl.
Really?
Like, I mean, that's
she was in Heroes.
Yes.
Wow.
Like she's been around forever. She was a child actress. She's
awesome.
been in Grey's Anatomy, only one episode, but still, like she worked her way up the ranks, working in television, working her way up into more bigger shows. She's been in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and a few other films. Like, yes, lower parts, but she's been working her way up like a natural actor.
She's a working actor for sure.
Up to the rank of where she's at now, she's primed for a starring role.
The fact that everyone knows her name and knows what she looks like, that should tell you something about like, how she's broken out, right? So like, more power to her. But like, I find it interesting that she's one of the few like women in Hollywood who's not afraid to come out and say, hey, all these other women who say women support women, it's all a lie. It's all propaganda. They don't actually support each other. They're all catty. They're all backstabbing, which is just Hollywood in general. If you're trying to like, ride the ranks. But guys,
as women in general, dude.
I will tell you one thing. I always have a test to find out how, because we live online, like in YouTube, we stream, we make our videos.
Yeah.
So it creates a sort of a bubble. I have a great test that I always use. I text her, I phone my aunt up. She's 76 years old. And I'll ask her, so I had texted her a second ago, like, do you know who Sydney Sweeney is? She's like, she tells me, oh yeah, she did this, she's the one with the boob. She was in that. Like, when she knows that, it's like 6 months ago. When again, I was on a show and I'm like, DEI is officially dead. It's because her and her group of friends, again, 76 to 80, they gave me a call and they're like, do you know this thing DEI? I'm like, yeah, I talk about it all the time. She's like, well, how are we going to stop it? I'm like, okay, well, now that it has saturated everywhere, it's time's up.
What's the plan?